there, my name is Juanita Sanchez, and I'm here to present chapters 1 and 10 from Phonics to Fluency. Chapter 1, it shares the focus of the whole book actually. This book focuses on the balanced approach. Guiding principles that were within chapter 1, a few of the points that I saw were, stood out and were more important, was to maximize contextual reading motivation, in other words, create conditions at home and at school that inspire students to read for their own purposes. Allow students to read a wide variety of materials, for example, poetry, song lyrics, jokes, and their own stories. I know we tend to push, students to, come on, let's read a chapter book, but if they're still at that level where they're interested in more pictures, and as long as they're reading and learning, we should embrace it. Both parents and teachers should be models of reading. Students should see us reading so they understand there are real purposes for reading, not just in school. So my students, during their snack time, I'm reading the chapters and they'll ask, what are you reading, Miss? And I'll tell them, well, I'm reading for school. I'm reading because I want to learn. All your life you're going to be reading and it's important. Effective teachers monitor their students' progress to determine what instruction works best. So I know it's time consuming, but we do need to write down their progress, and I do it every week with Fluency. Every week I'm testing them if they learn the skill of the week. So in chapter 1, one of the strategies that it mentions is the 4 blocks approach. The first block is self-selected reading. So in other words, they're reading and they share what they read to a partner or a teacher. So that would be books that they get at the library. It could be books that you have in your personal library. Number 2, guided reading. Teacher selected they read as a group and they're guided by the teacher. And so for the guided reading, usually I use the story of the week, or you could use Basil books, anything that has to do with the curriculum. Number 3, writing workshops. Students rewrite stories, write essays, lists, letters, or anything you can think of. So my students, since they're in first grade, they still use the primary journals to write in. And when they're done writing, then they can do a little drawing. Now, as far as the 4 blocks approach, each block is 30 minutes. So in the morning, I know we do about 15 minutes. I do 15 minutes in the morning of writing, but the approach wants us to have them think deeper, use more time to, ask questions. Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? And that's something I'm going to start incorporating, making sure that, we actually go through it and look what they need help in. And so the writing workshop is very important for their writing skills. And it doesn't matter. You can choose one day they're writing a story, another day an essay, another day a letter to a friend, as long as they learn how to write. And then block 4 is the word study. Students work on word recognition and fluency using a variety of activities. So for that 30 minutes, depending on what group you have, you would find any kind of hands-on activities you could use for students to, learn their words, learn their sounds. On this activity, they're blending. There's beginning sounds and then the ending sounds. So I have one student that's still currently learning to blend consonants at the beginning and at the end. So we've been working on this. For higher level students, you could, come up with harder, more higher order thinking games. in chapter 10, it mainly talks about this one strategy called building words or making and writing words. And so at first when I read it, it seemed kind of difficult, and it does take a lot of planning on the teacher side, but the kids will have fun with it. Making and writing words. First of all, you're starting with an empty sheet. The teacher tells students what word letters will be used. So on this one, I know you can't really see, but she tells them, okay, we're going to use the words A, another A, E, I, and then for the consonant, C, M, R. So then they would go ahead and write that in. Then the teacher can either pronounce the word or give a clue for the first word. Okay, so at the beginning of the year, I would just pronounce the word. The first one she wants them to do is car. I would probably do cats, because in first grade they haven't learned AR yet. AR could make the R sound, air sound, all different kinds of sound. So I would probably say at, and they would have to spell it in. But on this one, her example was, she would tell them, write a 3-letter word for an automobile. So they're sitting there thinking, what's an automobile? Oh, well, it's something you drive. What's a 3-letter word for an automobile? So they're like, okay, it's car. It's something you drive. It's a car. So on box 1, they would write car. And then it says write car again in box 2 and add 1 letter to make the word care. So in box 2, you've already told them write the word car, but add 1 more letter to make the word care. And so see, this is why I would wait to use this towards the end of the year when they've known, okay, care has an E at the end. So they would add the E to make the word care. And you keep doing that for the rest. You know, the next one she did ram. And then after ram, she said rearrange it to make a word that makes this, your arm. So they would write arm. The challenge word. In this case, the word is America. So we, at the beginning, she said, you know, we're using A-E-I-C-M-R. The challenge word is left to the very end, and they are to guess or, you know, try to figure out what word can you make by, you know, unscrambling the vowels and the consonants and make it into a real word. So that's usually the part where they're probably already thinking ahead of time, while we're doing the rest of these, they're thinking, what could the challenge word be? So in part 2, they're transfer words. Students are not limited to letters in part 1. So this right here was part 1, you know, the vowels, the consonants, the clues. And then the transfer words, they're words that are related to the words in part 1. So their transfer words were crust, carpet, and hammer. Crust because it related to the word cram. It has the CR at the beginning. Carpet because it has the same beginning as car. Hammer, trying to see. I'm not sure where they got hammer from, but somehow they related it to one of the words in part 1. And then part 3 is the word sort. The students cut out the words and use them throughout the week, creating word families. So they would bank them. They would cut them out, keep them somewhere in a folder or in a baggie, and use them to, you know, while they're writing their stories and whatnot. And so, you know, at the beginning I mentioned she hands out this paper. It's, you know, like a grid with numbers. But at the beginning of the year, you could also use cards, index cards or laminate cards. And like I said, it takes a lot of preparation. And then you would, instead of having them write down the letters, just give them the letters and they would need to figure it out like a puzzle. Okay, what's the challenge word? Or, okay, everybody show me a word for automobile, and they're scrambling the letters around. So it's more hands-on and easier for the lower level students. And so these are the online resources, wordsmith.org and wordsmith.org/anagram. So those are anagrams, where you're switching up the letters to make other words. And there's these very long ones. If you're interested in these online resources, you can go ahead and send me an email. I'll send out, I'll let you know what resources are. In fact, it's in chapter 10. If you look in chapter 10, this is where I got the online resources from for those words. So that way you're not sitting there planning, okay, what clues could I give them, or what words are we going to use? This makes it a lot easier to go in there. And it gives, you type in a few letters and it gives you words, anagrams that you could use for that activity. And for my activities, since those activities kind of they were for, word building, my activity was more focused on fluency. And so in another class, I'm focusing on readers theater, and I used to think, oh, they're just goofing around, they're just playing, they're not taking the word seriously. But after some research, it has proven to help out students with their fluency. And, with rules and when it's done right, readers theater can be very helpful. So it's for fluency and prosody. We want them not just to read fast, but to use periods. When they see a period, they stop. When they see a comma, they pause. We have students act out their stories at first, guiding them throughout the text. So at first, of course, with struggling students, you're guiding them, you're letting them know the words. We're going through it together, but they're acting it out, they're up, they're moving, and it's making it interesting. Make sure to use different voices for different characters, and teacher pausing between commas and ending punctuation. So I already talked about that, about the punctuation, the commas, the ending, but also to make sure they're using different voices for every character. That way they know who's talking and when. Because I've noticed in first grade, the stories go from Little Red Hen said, and then later on it goes to this is my bread, said Little Red Hen. Or, it switches said from the beginning to the end. And when you're using those voices, the students know, okay, this is who's talking. They don't get as confused with, okay, she said was at the end, or she said was at the beginning, who's talking. When we're doing readers theater, it's evident because you're changing up the voices. And that's pretty much it. And I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, you can let me know. And everything I got was from the book. Thank you.